We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
A year of terrorism and antisemitism, another major hurricane to hit Florida, a stronger than expected jobs report, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. On the one-year anniversary of the October 7th attack, when Hamas militants stormed into Israel and killed some 1,200 people and took 250 hostages, 97 of whom remain in captivity in Gaza, rockets continue to rain down on Israel. This week marked an unprecedented attack from Iran, which fired 181 ballistic missiles towards the country. For an hour, the entire nation took shelter. Fortunately, there were no casualties or injuries thanks to Israel's air defense system. The system has been crucial in protecting Israeli civilians, intercepting thousands of missiles aimed at population centers. However, some missiles did land at several Air Force bases and near the Mossad headquarters, although they did not cause significant damage, according to the IDF Chief of Staff. Israel's air defense strategy extends beyond Iron Dome. Systems like David Sling and Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 provide defense against medium and long-range missiles, and these systems have also been crucial in the current conflict. Israel Air Force Reserve Brigadier General Doron Gavish explains that the multi-layered defense structure was designed to handle a wide range of threats. We've used David Sling to intercept rockets from Lebanon and Arrow 3 to counter ballistic missiles from Iran. It's not just Iron Dome. It's a network of systems working together. Israel's military said it opened a new offensive into northern Gaza to combat militants who have resurfaced in the area, issuing sweeping evacuation orders after residents reported heavy artillery shelling overnight. The military said two of its armored brigades encircled part of Jabalah, a longtime Hamas stronghold in northern Gaza, in which it has fought several times over the past year, as an infantry division began an operation in the area on Sunday. Ahead of what is expected to be a broader push, the military called on the 300,000 residents estimated to still be living in northern Gaza to move through evacuation corridors to an expanded humanitarian zone in the south of the Gaza Strip, threatening to exacerbate already dire living conditions in the enclave. It is one of the most sweeping evacuation calls since Israel first urged residents of Gaza's north to clear out last October in the weeks ahead of its ground invasion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed French President Emmanuel Macron and other Western leaders on Saturday who called for an arms embargo on Israel over its airstrikes against Hamas in Gaza. As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran, all civilized countries should be standing firmly by Israel's side. Yet President Macron and other Western leaders are now calling for arms embargoes against Israel. Shame on them, Netanyahu said in a statement. He continued, is Iran imposing an arms embargo on Hezbollah, on the Houthis, on Hamas, and on its other proxies? Of course not. This axis of terror stands together, but countries who supposedly oppose this terror axis call for an arms embargo on Israel. Netanyahu called their stance a disgrace, adding that Israel would win with or without their support, but their shame will continue long after the war is won. A new report from the Anti-Defamation League found that anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. rose over 200% following the October 7th Hamas massacre in Israel, as compared to the same period the year before. The report from the ADL Center on Extremism recorded over 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents following the Hamas terrorist attack, the most recorded in any single year since the group started tracking them in 1979. In the year prior to October 7th, the center recorded 3,325 incidents. Today, we mourn the victims of the October 7th Hamas attack in Israel, marking 1 year since the worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, Jonathan Greenblatt, ADL CEO, said in a press release alongside the report's publication. Commentators said on Friday that President Biden tying Vice President Kamala Harris so closely to his administration's record is a boon to former President Trump's campaign. For the first time, Biden made an appearance during a White House press briefing where he spoke briefly about the averted port workers' strike, Friday's positive jobs numbers, and announced that he may request additional money from Congress to fund Hurricane Helene relief efforts. Biden was asked what role Harris had played amid numerous crises at home and abroad. Well, I'm in constant contact with her. She's aware. We're singing from the same song sheet. She helped pass all the laws that are being employed, said Biden. Now, she was a major player in everything we've done, including passage of legislation which we were told we could never pass. And so she's been, and her staff is interlocked with mine in terms of all the things we're doing, Biden continued. A federal judge in Missouri on Thursday temporarily blocked President Biden's student loan handout just 1 day after a judge in Georgia had permitted the plan to move forward. U.S. District Judge Matthew Shelp snatched the win from the Biden administration in response to a request from 6 Republican state attorneys general who have challenged the White House's effort. Shelp, an appointee of Republican former President Trump, issued a preliminary injunction blocking the Biden administration from mass canceling student loans and waiving principal or interest under the plan pending the outcome of the state's lawsuit. The ruling came down after U.S. District Judge Randall Hall transferred the litigation from Georgia and removed the state from the case after finding it would not experience any legal harm under Biden's handout plan. Just over a week since Hurricane Helene drenched parts of the southeast with deadly flooding, another hurricane is on its way in a matter of days. Milton strengthened into a Category 1 storm in the Gulf of Mexico yesterday and is expected to make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane on Florida's west coast by midweek. While not projected to be as powerful as Helene, Milton is forecast to intensify rapidly in the next few days, and the National Hurricane Center warned that the risk of life-threatening effects is increasing for areas of the Florida coast. It will be a test for FEMA, which is already deploying its limited resources to Hurricane Helene relief efforts. FEMA's resources were depleted by the Biden administration's transfer of funds to take care of illegal migrants. The Supreme Court, which begins its new term on Monday, has agreed to weigh in on whether or not the Mexican government's $10 billion lawsuit over cartel violence can proceed. U.S. gun manufacturers, including Smith & Wesson, Beretta, Colt, and Glock, are trying to get the High Court to toss the case. The lawsuit was revived by an appeals court after a trial judge found that it was blocked by a 2005 law that gives firearm companies broad immunity. The suit alleges that at least 70% of guns found at Mexican crime scenes are American-made. Striking U.S. dock workers returned to work on Friday after reaching a tentative agreement with employers on an improved wage offer. The conditional offer was for a 62% wage increase. The offer is on the table for the next 90 days. If no deal is reached within that time frame, the proposed wage hike will be pulled from the table. The International Longshoremen's Association, which represents 45,000 striking U.S. workers, said the union and USMX have reached a tentative agreement on wages and have agreed to extend the master contract until January 15, 2025, to return to the bargaining table to negotiate all other outstanding issues. The trouble with the East Coast ports is they're very old, they're very inefficient, O'Leary Ventures chairman and Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary said on Friday. And when you start to compare them against other international ports like Singapore and the other Asian ports, he continued, we're just not holding much up against them. And that's very bad for productivity. The U.S. labor market strengthened as job growth accelerated in September, and the unemployment rate ticked lower. Employers added 254,000 jobs last month, according to the Labor Department. That was significantly more than the 150,000 economists expected, and marked the largest monthly increase since March. The unemployment rate slipped to 4.1%. Friday's bumper payroll report is likely to close the door on another half percentage point rate cut by the Federal Reserve at its next meeting in November. It should keep officials on track to lower rates by a quarter point. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.